Looking at your scattered life, that dusty guitar sitting in the corner, that website you coded halfway and abandoned, those expensive baking supplies gathering dust, and that weird impulse you had last Tuesday to sign up for jiu-jitsu classes, you probably feel a particular kind of crushing shame. Society has already labeled you. They call you a dilettante, a dabbler, someone who jumps from shiny object to shiny object without ever committing. They whisper that you're too scattered, too chaotic, that you lack the discipline to just pick something and stick with it like normal people do. You feel like a fraud because you can't seem to stay in your lane, and you've probably used that old phrase to torture yourself late at night. Jack of all trades, master of none. You use those words like a whip against your own back. But here's what you conveniently forgot. The actual full quote changes everything. It goes like this: a jack of all trades is a master of none, but oftentimes better than a master of one. That second part flips the entire meaning on its head. Modern psychology is now revealing something shocking about this feeling of being all over the place. It turns out this isn't some character flaw or personal failure. This scattered energy you carry is actually a sign of something extraordinary happening inside your nervous system. You aren't broken or undisciplined. What's really happening is that your brain is unconsciously constructing something incredibly rare, something psychologists call the M-shaped mind. While everyone around you keeps screaming at you to focus and specialize, your brain is quietly preparing you for a future where putting all your eggs in one basket is actually the most dangerous thing you could possibly do. But before we dive deeper into why your apparent chaos is actually a brilliant survival mechanism, tell me in the comments where you're tuning in from right now. And if this kind of psychological insight lights you up inside, make sure you check out my newsletter community after you finish watching. The link is waiting for you in the description below. To really understand why this anxiety eats at you, we need to examine the massive lie that was sold to you your entire life. For roughly the past 100 years, the world operated like a T-shaped game. It rewarded the people who took a single narrow path and dug one incredibly deep hole. Success meant becoming a specialist. The environment was what researchers call kind and predictable, sort of like playing golf where the rules stay frozen in place forever. If you committed to practicing that same swing for 10,000 hours straight, you would eventually win. Simple formula, predictable outcome. But here's the brutal truth. You don't actually live in that kind of stable, predictable world anymore. Deep down in your subconscious, your brain already knows this. It understands that the modern landscape you're navigating is what experts call a wicked environment. Nothing stays the same. The rules morph and shift beneath your feet every single day. In this kind of volatile chaos, the specialist becomes incredibly fragile and vulnerable. When their industry transforms or collapses overnight, they become instantly obsolete with nowhere to turn. Your brain senses this danger instinctively, which is exactly why you drift naturally from interest to interest. One year you become completely obsessed with understanding electrical wiring systems and how HVAC units function. Then seemingly out of nowhere, you pivot hard into yoga practices, heavy powerlifting, and learning how to DJ electronic music at underground raves. To someone watching from the outside, this pattern looks absolutely insane. They label you as scattered or unfocused, maybe even unstable. But what you're actually doing beneath the surface is something brilliant. You're gathering precious data points from wildly different and seemingly unconnected domains. This is precisely where the real magic starts to happen. Psychologists have a specific term for this ability. They call it far transfer. The typical specialist relies entirely on something called near transfer. They solve problems they've encountered before using the exact same tired tools they always use. Nothing new, nothing creative. But you operate on a completely different level. You grab a concept from one totally unrelated field and drop it into another context where nobody saw it coming. That's where innovation explodes. Imagine a web developer who used to work as a beekeeper and managed a small farm before ever touching a line of code. On paper, those experiences seem to have absolutely zero connection to programming. But that deep agricultural background gives them an intuitive understanding of organic systems, natural growth patterns, and cyclical processes that a specialist coder who only stares at glowing screens could never possibly grasp. They aren't just writing code mechanically. They're cultivating a living, breathing digital ecosystem. That right there is far transfer in action. That's genuine innovation being born. You beat yourself up because you're not the absolute best at any single thing. But you're completely missing the point. Your real value doesn't live in how deep you go. It lives in your ability to synthesize and connect. Now, realizing that your restless curiosity is actually a superpower brings some relief, sure. But it doesn't immediately solve the crushing weight you feel, that constant burnout and that nagging sensation that you're falling hopelessly behind in life. You watch people your exact age climbing corporate ladders, becoming senior vice presidents or lead engineers, and you feel like you're still standing at the starting line because you keep switching tracks. This painful feeling happens because you fundamentally misunderstand the actual geometry of your own potential. You're not T-shaped with general knowledge topped by one area of expertise. You're M-shaped, which is completely different. An M-shaped person builds multiple strong pillars of genuine depth, and those pillars get connected by bridges of curiosity and cross-pollination. But here's the critical trap that destroys most people like you. You absolutely cannot build all the pillars of your M at the exact same time. If you attempt to simultaneously learn advanced data science, write an entire novel, and launch a startup all within the same month, you will crash and burn spectacularly. The people who actually succeed at navigating this kind of life, the real polymaths who thrive, practice something crucial called serial mastery. You have to view your entire life through the lens of seasons. Maybe you spend your entire 20s completely obsessed with music production and visual art. Then somewhere in your 30s, you pivot hard into programming because you need to actually pay your bills. You didn't quit art or betray it. You simply finished that particular season of construction and moved into the next phase. I came across a story recently about a 53-year-old person who finally made peace with this exact struggle. He realized he couldn't force himself to choose between art and programming like society demanded. Instead, he let programming become the stable pillar that generated reliable income while music, philosophy, and game design flourished beautifully as his other pillars during nights and weekends. He turned down high-pressure team lead positions that would have boosted his salary because he wanted to protect his work week at just 30 hours. He fiercely guarded his psychic energy and mental space. He didn't try to frantically merge all his interests instantly into one thing. He let them exist separately and sequentially, trusting the process. Eventually, organically, they all flowed together into his own personal video game projects that combined everything he loved. That is the M-shape coming alive in real time. There's one final psychological characteristic you possess that makes you absolutely bulletproof, and it comes straight from evolutionary biology. Scientists call it redundancy. In the natural world, redundancy represents strength, not inefficiency or waste. Take elephants, for example. These massive creatures rarely develop cancer despite their size because they possess enormous genetic redundancy. They carry multiple backup copies of the same cancer-fighting genes. If one copy fails or malfunctions, another one immediately takes over. Your seemingly chaotic collection of random interests functions exactly like this biological redundancy. If you're just a specialist software engineer and artificial intelligence suddenly automates your job tomorrow, you're absolutely terrified with nowhere to go. But if you're a software engineer who also knows how to install and repair electrical systems, troubleshoot HVAC motors, teach English as a second language, and build furniture, you become completely unbreakable. You haven't been wasting precious years dabbling aimlessly like people accused you of. You've been engaging in strategic adaptability without even realizing it. You've been quietly constructing a massive safety net woven from diverse skills that guarantees no matter what chaos hits the economy, what technology disrupts, or how the job market collapses, you always have a ready pivot waiting. So stop apologizing for that graveyard of abandoned hobbies scattered across your past. Those weren't failures or embarrassments. They were semesters in the university of your own creation. You were never designed or meant to be just one thing. You were built to become the bridge between completely different worlds that other people can't even see exist. If you're ready to fully embrace your M-shaped future and stop fighting against your own nature, drop a heart emoji down in the comments to show you're finally putting all the pieces together. And if you want the deep dive research on exactly how to structure your life seasons intentionally, hit subscribe right now and check out the newsletter community linked in the description.